When it comes to racing games, no one does it better than Codemasters, and you can always expect a high quality, fun and addictive racer whenever they release their new titles. I can still remember first playing Grid when it was back on the 360, probably in around 2008 or 2009, and it was a really fun arcade kind of simulation racer, and especially with the online mode that lets you team up with your friends and drive in teams and online events. So when Grid was announced for the PlayStation and Xbox One, I was really looking forward to dropping back into the Toka Grid series again and hoping that it kept some of the essence that made the previous game so fun for me. Now when you start up the game, you're dropped into a few races to ease you on how different the events work in each of your career races. After the intro, you're taken into the home screen, which is kind of basic and straight to the point. The career mode is the meat and potatoes of the Grid game and probably where you'll spend most of your time playing to grab some cars for the online play later. In your career you've got 6 classes, and each class comes with touring cars, stock cars and super modified cars in each one. And in each of these classes you'll be racing around streets or on circuit tracks. The cars are also based on real life models like the Aston Martin Vantage, a Ford Mustang and the Subaru Impreza, plus a few more. You get to race in 13 different events with the aim to reach the showdown events at the end. In all there's probably about 100 races for you to do, and there seems you could sink plenty of hours into the game. However, for me, I found it got extremely tedious after a while, and it starts off with a lot of the events and enough variety to keep you entertained and want you to push on, but for me it didn't quite grab me as much as I hoped like it did in previous titles. Now with the amount of different car classes that are on offer in Grid, you would think they'd offer up more ways of different events instead of just the 2 that are on offer. And the 2 that are on offer is just an all and out race and a time trial, or time attack as they call it. It's a shame, as you'd hope that the developers would have offered up a bit more and really fleshed out the career mode, but sadly this is not the case. The other modes on offer are free play and multiplayer, with free play letting you set up your own events and choose what vehicles and tracks and the weather. Now this only really serves to kind of dip your toes in and try and get used to the cars and the tracks, and it's more of a practice mode than anything else. The online mode and multiplayer has not much to shout about either, with just 2 on offer, public and private matches. The public matches are just quick matches that throws you in with random lobby and events, and where in the private matches it sees you setting up your own events and choosing the track and AI difficulty and the damage that you want to do to the cars, with a few more bits and bobs thrown in. Speaking of the damage, the cars in Grid have somewhat a realistic look when it comes to them receiving damage, whether from you slamming into other cars or parts of the track. Your bonnet and bumpers will get dented and crushed as you receive damage until you get banged up enough, and they'll hang on until they fly off due to the speed of your car, and these will either slide across the track or hit oncoming cars. Also, with enough damage taken, your engine will start to smoke and your tyres will even burst and rip off, leaving you driving around the track on metal rims, causing sparks to fly from them. If you do find yourself about to hit a wall head on, you can choose the flashback option. Now, this is a standard feature in the Codemasters racers, and what this does, it will let you rewind your game to a save point and you can start again. If you want to go all realistic, you can have the flashbacks completely turned off and even have full damage on the cars, and even ramp up the AI difficulty of the drivers. You can see them battle out for position on the track. The AI can be a bit rough at times too when they're rubbing up against your car and trying to move up to the first position, and they'll even eventually push you up against some barriers or off the track. Now I was playing Grid on normal and they were still kind of aggressive, pushing and bumping me off the track and trying to slam me into the walls. But not only me, they would either bang into each other too, and there was times where you'd see AI cars getting flipped across the track or getting spun out. Now there are driving aids that will help you, and you can choose whether to have these on or off, like a racing line, braking assistance and so on. And this is kind of the norm that you find in most races now, but since Grid is a kind of an arcade or slash sim racer, you can tune your car too while changing your gear ratios, brakes and distributions. Now while it's not at the level of Forza or maybe Gran Turismo, there is enough there to keep your tuning levels happy. Not only does Grid let you choose to tune your car if you choose, there's also the options to choose pre-made patterns or liveries, whichever one you call it, but they're cool designs, and these designs you can place on any of the cars that you purchased. I think it would have been a good idea if we could actually customise our cars to the same level of maybe the Forza series that I mentioned before, but they're only predetermined patterns. Now I don't know if they'll release any more in the DLCs that are coming out for the rest of the year, or even next year, but hopefully we'll see some new changes. Now when you finish messing about with all the settings and trying to spruce up your car as best you can, you need to start winning races and earning some cash. Now this is another bit of a disappointment for me, because every time you race and win or even achieve a high enough position, you can earn some points to level up. Every time you race and win to achieve a high enough position, you get to earn points to level up. Now while you don't really get much in the way of leveling up rewards, sometimes you'll just get partners for your car or your banners, but that's really much it. Also you'll probably get a small bit of cash, and this cash can be used to buy faster and more powerful cars. Other than getting a few pre-made patterns and maybe some extra decals for your car, that's really about it. I was kind of hoping that the developers would have let us unlock some cars rather than just having to wait until you gathered enough cash to buy the ones that you need for the races. And more often than not, half the time when you do level up, you won't even bother to check what you've been offered, and you'll just skip through all the levels. There's one aspect of Grid that I think works really well, and that's the nemesis system. And what this means that if you ram too hard into another racer on the track, they will try and seek you out to get some sort of revenge, and it will be their goal to take you out. Now while in theory it sounds good, it's not always executed correctly, and sometimes you'll go along unnoticed. The only real time you'll feel anything is when you finish above them, and you'll receive a tiny little bonus for finishing ahead of your nemesis. When it comes to the Grid's visuals and sounds, it's a bit kind of hit and miss. Usually at times the game looks amazing with the sun glare on the chosen camera you're using, when it hits your camera just right and you get that kind of sun glare. And it also hits the tracks at certain times that can show off the real graphical shine from the track, and you can see the asphalt and the real parts of the track really well. But this is also true around when you're driving in the rain, and you'll see raindrops on the camera if you're using the rear view, and you can also see the spray and water effects come into play when you're speeding around the tracks. Now when driving at night time, the lights off the cars light up the track ahead of you as you pass through some of the darker parts of the tracks that are on offer. And when you come into the grandstand areas, everything is kind of bright and colourful and lights up the track around you. Online it seems that the game's visuals have taken a hit, which is a bit of a shame, but it is expected in some races that you might play. But I was kind of hoping that this game would have been slightly different. Now the visuals also seem to leak into the crowd. Now what I mean by this is that when you're racing on certain tracks and when you zip around the corners, you'll see some of the crowd taking photos and the cameras will flash rapidly as you fly by. There are also some of the tracks that are set on the coast, and you'll see waves crashing up against the barriers and spray up water on the crowd. And now while it's nothing awe-inspiring, the effect is nice, but it doesn't really add anything to while you're driving by. It's just more for show. I was hoping for more on the visuals on the tracks and the cars themselves. As Codemasters devs, they're always on the top of their game when it comes to the races and visuals. But when you compare them to Grid and their other driving titles that they've released in the last few years, the visuals on Grid is kind of a bit lackluster, and it's a shame that they don't match up. Also, when it comes to the sound from Grid, I found that most of the cars do kind of sound similar, and I feel like they could have put a bit more time and effort into making them sound a bit more distinctive. Also, as you race around the tracks, the team chatter that you hear over the radio can be a bit of a letdown at times, as you wish they could have feel a bit less robotic and more organic and a bit more free-flowing. There's also, not to mention, there's an annoying little tannoy that seems to pop up over the course, and it's quite hard to hear at times. Now it's probably just me, but I find this kind of irritating at times, and I wish you could just turn it off, but it's probably just me. I really did have some high hopes for Grid when I first heard it was announced, but sadly it doesn't seem to be the case. Now while it's not as fun as Wreckfest and it seems to lack the depth and longevity of the Forza series, there probably are those among you that love the Codemasters racers and feel like this game could be for you. But I do feel there's certain aspects in the career mode that just seems to be lacking any kind of longevity, and it's more of a rinse and repeat. And I was kind of hoping that I'd bring back the passion that they had in Grid back in the 360 days, but sadly this wasn't the case. So if you like the look of Grid or you bought it yourself, maybe drop a comment down below and let me know what you thought of it. Also, if you enjoyed my review, I'd really appreciate if you could drop a like and maybe drop a comment down below, and if you had the time just to check my other reviews on the channel, and also hit the subscribe button to support the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Anywho, thanks for dropping by, and I'll hope you'll see you in the next video.